About 2 years ago, I lived in an old house outside of the city limits in western Alabama. Wild hogs are considered a nuisance in this part of the country, and thus are year-round game. The land wasn't mine, but it was legal hunting ground, so my landlord gave me and my friends explicit permission to take care of any hogs we came across. So a lot of the time, especially during winter when this encounter took place, I was posted up on the back porch with a cigar and a gun, either by myself or with company. So, all that being said, one night during my porch sitting I heard some rustling. I started scanning the woods for this hog, and eventually did come across a set of white beady eyes. They weren't a hog's eyes though, because they were eye level with me. As my eyes continued to adjust, the rest of the creature came into view. It was tall, thin, and had long, spindly arms and legs. Its entire body was completely black. I couldn't make out any other facial features besides the eyes, but what I could make out was that this thing was a really good ways away and down the hill, so the fact that it was still at eye level with me meant it was likely 10 feet tall. It started up the hill, moving towards me, and had this feeling in my gut that the .45 caliber bullets probably weren't going to do much to it. So I slowly collected my things and headed back into the house. It didn't make any sound as it moved other than the slight crunch of leaves. As it climbed the hill, it somewhat stopped at the tree line, then turned and walked along the edge of it. It bobbed and lurched a bit as it walked, kind of how some large birds bob their heads as they move. That was the most terrified I had been in a long while, and as the title says, this wasn't the only encounter. My hunting buddies and I saw it several times, walking through the trees a good bit away from the house, sometimes turning to look at us. My roommate that moved in later the same year once walked outside and saw it right up against the porch looking down at her. It never tried to attack anyone or even acted aggressively, so we eventually stopped being as scared, though still very cautious, and started calling him quote-unquote big boy. I've told a couple other friends about this one. One of them said the description and behavior matched something called the California Dark Watcher. I did my research, and as much as this creature matches up, this was the opposite end of the continent. I'm still not 100% sure on what it was that I saw, but I am 100% sure I saw it. Multiple people did. Update. Just spoke to my old roommate that saw it up close. She said it was more eerie than downright scary. It looked at her like it was curious, tilting its head to the side like a dog when you're holding something it wants. My hunting buddies and I all saw it from 30 to 50 feet away, but she ended up seeing it closer than all of us. She confirmed no features other than eyes, but it had sunken in spaces on the face where other features would be. I understand her not taking a picture. I wouldn't take a picture if there was a bear 10 feet from me, let alone this thing. I was wondering if anyone else has had any experiences with people that didn't quite seem to be people, like there was something off about them. I had an experience some time ago that I've never really been able to shake off. So this happened in Charleston, South Carolina around Christmas of 2017. I used to work at a popular coffee shop that was inside of a popular big box retail store. One day around Christmas time, I had two guests that struck me as odd immediately. They were pale Caucasian women around their mid-20s, and both looked nearly identical, but one was about a head taller. They had the exact same haircut, very straight, platinum blonde, bull-like cuts. Their faces were quite round, and their eyes were noticeably bright hazel color and appeared quite large, but not quite like a gray alien, disproportionate kind of way. They both also had a fairly odd, stiff gait, as though they had a board strapped to the back of their legs. They sort of shuffled their feet around when they walked. They both also had oversized sweaters, and I noticed later that shorter one had theirs on backwards. The weird part was their behavior. When they first walked in, the shorter one looked around the store as if they'd never been in one. Her overall demeanor was somewhat childlike. Like a good customer service rep, I welcomed them in and told them to ask any questions if they had any. The short girl looked to the taller one as if for approval. She then slowly nodded her head towards me, mouth slightly agape, and then attempted a hand wave. Instead of waving at the wrist like most people, she waves with her forearm, palm flat and straight in some sort of robotic windshield wiper motion. She then turns to the taller one, who gives her an encouraging nod. They then proceed to walk around the cafe looking at the cups and merchandise. The short girl would often point around the store, and it seemed to be asking the taller one questions, almost as if they were on a guided tour of sorts. Now, I'm obviously no linguist, but my city is a fairly popular tourist destination, and I've met foreigners from all around the globe. Even if I don't recognize a specific language, I can usually estimate roundabout where it may be from, whether it's Germanic, Slavic, Asiatic, Mid-Eastern or so in origin. But the language they spoke to each other was very strange and not like any I've ever heard. Imagine if you mix Spanish with some baby babble and sped it up, lots of ga, blah, ooh sounds. They continued on checking out the merchandise and going on what seemed to be a Q&A session. They would often open cups and look inside, grab bags of beans and squeeze them and shake them. At one point, the shorter one took part of a French press, and a taller one seemed to try and explain what it was for. This went on for another 10 minutes or so, when the short one picked out a studded cup for purchase. She shuffles her way to the POS and puts the cup on the counter, frequently looking towards her friend as if to look for reassurance, who again does the simple nod and encouragement. She then looks towards me and attempts to smile, which was just baring her perfectly straight white top teeth as though she were biting her bottom lip and slowly nodding, not saying a word. It was here I noticed that her sweater was on backwards, the tag sticking out the front of her neck. Now that I had a good look, I will say she was quite oddly attractive, but there was something about her appearance that gave uncanny valley vibes. But I couldn't tell you exactly what was off. I will say I don't recall them ever blinking. I scanned the cup and went on the typical checkout spiel, to which there was no reply. When it was time to pay, she pulled out a silver credit card that had no markings on it whatsoever. No logos, no numbers, no name, just a blank plastic with a chip. She then looks back over to the taller one and says something, who then comes over and finishes the transaction for her, showing her as though it was a teaching moment. I hand her the cup, and she once again slowly nods her head, mouth ajar, and does that windshield wiper wave. They then shuffle their way out of the cafe into the rest of the store, and I never saw them again. I've told this story to people before, and they usually just hand wave it and say there were probably some tourists from Europe, or maybe they had a condition of sorts. But like I've said, I've encountered many foreigners, and none of them acted this much like a fish out of water, nor was their overall demeanor and behavior this uncanny. I won't rule it out as a possibility, of course, but it just doesn't quite sit satisfactory with me. It was just too weird. I'll first start this by saying that I've never really believed in the mythical creature stuff, but after what I saw, I kind of changed my mind. I was walking in the woods behind my house last Monday. I was on a dirt road, and all of a sudden I heard a very, very loud thump on the ground, like if a 20,000-pound bull could run, and I kind of ran to try and get a glimpse of it. I was thinking it was a deer. I saw a person-like figure, very, very dark. It could have been dark because of shadows or whatnot. The time was 5 in the afternoon, by the way. Broad daylight. Anyway, it was kind of skinny, but not really. It looked like it had horns, but I couldn't really tell because I saw it for only a split second before it absolutely bolted off. And anytime I go in the woods, I carry a gun. I decided to carry a shotgun today. Seeing what I thought was some sort of method or mythical creature, I pulled a shotgun off my back and kept walking down the road, and I immediately called my friend and told him what had happened. I wasn't worried in the moment, considering I had a gun, because nothing is bulletproof, and I kept walking. I got the feeling to just turn around, so that's what I did. After processing what I saw, the whole way home I was looking behind my shoulder. I would take about 2 steps and look behind me. But whatever I saw, it didn't make any noises. It just ran off. It didn't trot off like a deer. It ran like a person. I told my brother about it today. He told me that within the year, he was outside at night with our dad, just in the driveway, and he saw something hunched over. No hair, pointy ears, and grayish in color run past, probably about 30 miles an hour, from a corner of the house to a car parked right next to it. This was about 10 feet away from him, by the way. And he at first thought it was a person. He went and looked behind the car, and there wasn't anything there. He also looked under and didn't see anything. He also said that it was absolutely quiet as well. He asked our dad if he had heard or saw anything, and he said no, so he didn't know what he saw. The thing my brother described didn't exactly sound like what I saw, but I believed him. I wonder how long this creature, or creatures, have been out there. I'm very creeped out though, and I really don't want to go back out there anyway. I'm not asking you to believe me, because just a week ago, if I had read this, I would say this is fake as hell, but not any damn more. I'm just asking for some help to understand what I saw. These videos are intended to bring about awareness to the dark side of the world we live in. As a reality of life, violent crimes happen every day in our neighborhoods. Keep your loved ones safe. And remember to say I love you. If you liked the video, remember to like and subscribe. And remember, watch your back.